Hey guys, how's it going? So, over the weekend, something very, very special just happened. Sony announced that they were gonna go multi-platform on their IPs. So basically, their first-party games are now going to be available in both PC and whatever Xbox is doing next. And this was an extremely interesting thing to hear for somebody like Sony, because now everybody's looking at the third guy, at Nintendo straight, and being, when is Nintendo ever gonna be multi-platform? Now, Sony or Xbox going multi-platform doesn't really have any special meaning behind it. It just means that those little basic IPs that were locked away from between a PlayStation or an Xbox are just gonna be available. So Gears of War is already available on PlayStation, and Spider-Man is going to be available on Xbox, and whatever it is in the future, right? There's really not that much different with the Call of Duties and all this stuff that were already multi-platform, and nobody was really benefiting from this exclusiveness. Nintendo's a little bit different, and I'm going to go into full detail. I'm going to give you guys 5 main reasons why Nintendo will never, ever be multi-platform with its first-party games, which are Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, you name it, basically, Samus, whatever you want. Now, it is extremely unlikely that they go multi-platform, and one of the main problems here is Nintendo's identity. The hardware is very interconnected with the software for Nintendo. So unlike Sony or Microsoft, Nintendo designs games around its hardware. So basically motion controls on the Wii, dual screens on the DS, 3D screens on the 3DS, and portability on Switch was always a huge idea that was prominent in the first party games. So you can imagine somebody playing like something like Mario Galaxy or a game that uses motion controls on a console like PlayStation or Xbox. It just wouldn't feel right. And its franchises, Zelda, Mario, Pokémon, often rely on unique hardware experience that wouldn't really translate very cleanly to PlayStation or Xbox, and they're so interconnected to Nintendo. They're so embedded with the identity of the console, of the Nintendo brand, that it just wouldn't make sense to see them in any other company's console, and probably not for a very long time. Exclusive games sell consoles. So Nintendo doesn't just make games, they make ecosystems. These ecosystems rely on very different add-ons for their exclusive systems, which really helps the bottom line for the consoles. So each have their own little camera, their own little console games, their own little their own little controllers. All this stuff matters for Nintendo. The Switch has sold over 140 million units, largely because of the exclusives. The Mario Kart, the Super Smash Bros, the Zelda franchise, all of it has contributed majorly to the console's success, and is not without a doubt something that is very obviously aware by Nintendo's executives. They will not give in into this whole thing, because they will kind of lose their only advantage that they have. The IPs that Nintendo possess under their portfolio is basically everything when it comes to their sales, because then if you have a choice between which console you're going to pick, maybe you're just going to pick the highest performing, so you're going to pick the Xbox, or you're going to pick the one that looks best, so you pick the PlayStation. But for Nintendo, you pick the IP. You want the next Mario, you want the next Zelda, the next Smash Brothers. Kids want Mario, Zelda, and all this stuff as well. They need these consoles, and it's really their only performative advantage that they have. Going multi-platform would undercut their console sales by a very big margin. Such a margin that for them, it wouldn't even probably make sense to make consoles anymore, which is a massive part of their business model. It just wouldn't make sense financially from any point. Third, They already dominate without going multi-platform. Nintendo is almost always profitable, even when hardware sales dip. You see, from the Wii to the Wii U to the Nintendo DS to the 3DS to the Switch 2, only one of those consoles hasn't performed right in sales, and it's only been the Wii U. The Wii U was a very, very unique console because it wasn't marketed properly by Nintendo. It seemed like an add-on more to the Wii than another console, another step. So basically, this was the only one that seemed to be a dip on hardware sales for Nintendo. But other than that, mate, they've been doing awesome when it comes to sales for their consoles. From the Wii to the basically from the SNES and to the N64 to the GameCube and to the Wii U and to whatever you want to call it, the GameCube and the Wii U haven't been the lowest dips, and even then, it's a pretty good sales margin. They just wouldn't do it, basically. Games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Animal Crossing New Horizons sell tens of millions of copies on just one platform. Why would you do it more? It just doesn't make sense. You lose a competitive edge that is very, very important in this day and age. 4. They control every part of the user experience. Nintendo is obsessed with controlling their entire pipeline. Hardware, software, branding, store ecosystem, and accessories are all super important for Nintendo. It just doesn't make sense to slip up and to really break that harmony that they have been building for decades now. Going multi-platform would require them to relinquish control over their company's babies, basically, their IPs, something that they historically been known to resist and to even punish. Even go as far as to punishing it very, very aggravating, to the point where it seems more that they are making a statement than they're just really getting a hold of somebody else. Basically, they really do relinquish control very, very little amongst their first party partners. Now you can imagine when it comes to a third party, it would go insane. Their lawyers would probably work extra hard to just get the game going. It just wouldn't make sense at all. And 5th, most intensely, but they do experiment very carefully, Nintendo has gone beyond its console in very limited ways, in extremely rigorous ways as well. Mobile games like Mario Kart Tour and Super Mario Run that really didn't turn a profit from Nintendo as much, but they were a little outside the box. Movies and merchandising is also really important for Nintendo. The Super Mario Bros. Movie was an extreme success, and even getting that movie made took a long time. I can't imagine the lawyer room in there figuring out every single detail, and honestly, it feels really, really exhausting to do a 2-hour movie on it with all that IP property and all that intellect power they have. I can't imagine going on making games for other consoles. And the partnerships with Universal Studios and Lego, and for the partnerships with Universal Studios and Lego and all this stuff really took a long time to form. Nintendo is a company that really excruciates every single detail about their brand and their products. They're really careful with the presentation, even going as long as to not even giving officially Mario and Peach a relationship status, calling them longtime friends. All of this is about brand expansion, not platform surrender. The bottom line is, and the conclusion is, that Nintendo will only go multi-platform if the IPs, they completely exit the hardware business. But that's very unlikely for the foreseeable future. It doesn't seem a possibility for them, since the sales are basically making their bottom line really nice for them. And the market fundamentally shifts in a way that makes the exclusivity unsustainable. Basically, a streaming only future or something like that, or the other consoles really overpower Nintendo in such a way that it just makes excruciating and they just need to shift their business strategy, which also doesn't really make sense. For me, the only possibility I would see would be to wait for for the IP to become public domain, which I think Mario is about to be public domain in maybe 2082, and that's if Shigeru Miyamoto is still for a long time here, because that seems very likely too. So it seems that that's the only way, and that's going to be a long time. Otherwise, they'll stay on their own ecosystem because it just works, and it just doesn't make sense to surrender when you have the winning hand. Thank you guys for watching.